We're going to do division of fractions. So what we have here is 1/3. And I think all of you are familiar with the word reciprocal. How do you find the reciprocal of any fraction, a over b? You just flip the fraction. The denominator becomes the numerator and the numerator becomes the denominator. That is called the reciprocal of a fraction. So the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3 over 1, which is 3. And what's special about a reciprocal is when you multiply a fraction with its reciprocal, you get a 1, because 3 over 3 is a 1. Everything gets cancelled, so you're left with a 1. The reciprocal of 2/5 is 5/2, because 2/5 times 5/2 is equal to a 1, because every factor in the numerator cancels with a factor in the denominator. So 2 over 2 is a 1, 5 over 5 is a 1, so 1 times 1 is a 1. 17/11. Flip the fraction to get 11/17. So you have 17 over 11 times 11 over 17. As you can see, every factor in the numerator gets cancelled with a factor in the denominator, and you're left with a 1. 17 over 17 is a 1. 11 over 11 is a 1, and your final answer is a 1. Now, 0 can be written as 0 over 1. This is the only number that cannot be flipped. You get 1 over 0. And remember, this cannot happen. A 0 cannot be in the denominator. This term is undefined. Every fraction, every number that can be written as a fraction can be flipped, but look at 0. 0 can be written as 0 over 1, but we cannot flip this fraction. Now, we've done multiplication of fractions. Division of fractions is very similar to multiplication of fractions after one little step, and that is what I'm going to explain here. So if we have, let's say, 2/4 divided by 3/8. So if we have 2/4 divided by 3/8, we are dividing fractions. Now this is the first step, after which everything becomes familiar. It's just like section 2.3 in which we were multiplying fractions. So you go 2/4, the division becomes multiplication, divided by 8/3. So the division becomes multiplication, and 2/4 divided by 3/8 becomes 2/4 multiplied by 8/3. Division changes to multiplication. However, you have to remember to flip the fraction on the right of the division sign. Only one fraction right next to the division sign has to be flipped. After which you get 2 times 8 divided by 4 times 3. 4 goes 2 times into 8 because 8 is 4 times 2. Cancel common factors, that makes it a 1. You get 2 times 2 is 4 over 3, and that's our final answer. We cancel all common factors, just like we did with multiplication of fractions. Now let's see what happens to this one. 2/3 divided by 1/3 is 2/3 times 3 over 1. So that is now the division problem has changed to a multiplication problem. And how do we multiply fractions? We multiply the numerators, we multiply the denominators, cancel all common factors, and we're left with a 2 over 1, which is really a same as 2. 120 over 3 divided by 5/3. So 120 divided by 3, division changes to multiplication. Flip the fraction. 120 over 3 times, so what happened was we changed the division to multiplication, and you multiply with the reciprocal of 5/3, which is 3/5. So we have 120. Do not multiply the numbers in a rush, because we want to cancel as many common factors as possible before we combine the numbers. So as you can see, 3 over 3 is a 1, they get cancelled, so that makes it a 1. 120 and 5 have a common factor. 120 ends with a 0. If a number ends with a 0, we know we can break it down. I know 5 goes into it, but we don't want to do long division unless we absolutely have to. So instead of doing this, which is dividing by 5, we're going to break down the 120 as 12 times 10, which is the easiest thing to do. Just separate the 0 from the 12 and write it as 12 times 10. 12 times 5 times 2 divided by 5. So cancel common factors and we get 12 times 2 is 24. So we avoided long division by 5. It's pretty clear that 5 goes into 120, and let's see if we can do the long division on this end here. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring the 0 down. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract and you get a 0. And we could have done it this way. 5 times 24 is 120. We would have divided by 5 and our answer would have been 24 either way. But recognizing that 120 is 12 times 10 made it easier for us, and we were able to avoid long division. So as you can see, division is, after the first step, it's the same as multiplication of fractions. So there was nothing new other than the fact that we changed division to multiplication and we flip the fraction. Now let's look at this. 132 divided by 7 over 7 divided by 3. So let's write it. 132 over 7, and now we know it's a fraction. We have to do division of fractions, so we're going to write 3 as 3 over 1. What's my first step? Change division to multiplication and flip the fraction right next to it. So that becomes a 3 over 1. 132 over 7 times 3 over 1. So this is equal to 132 times 3 over 7. Now if we have to cancel common factors, our only hope is that 7 divides 132. And if it doesn't, there's not much of cancellation that we can do, but let's give it a try. Let's see how many times, if at all, 7 goes into 132. 7 times 1 is 7. When you subtract 7 from 13, you get a 6. And clearly 7 does not go into 62. 7 nines are 63. So therefore 7 does not go into 132. So now that we've checked, we can just wrap this up by multiplying 132 by 3. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3, so that's equal to 396 over 7.